The gymnasium at Holloway's security group smelled like fresh rubber mats and expensive cologne. 22 men stood in loose clusters, most of them mountains of muscle in matching black compression shirts, comparing resumes from private military contractors and championship wrestling programs. Marcus Reed stood near the door, in a faded gray t-shirt and jeans that had seen better years, a duffel bag slung over one shoulder. He was 41. His hands were calloused, his hair was more gray than brown at the temples, and he looked, by every visible measure, like a man who had wandered into the wrong building. "You lost, buddy?" a broad-shouldered man named Dominic Vale asked, not bothering to hide his grin. Dominic was 6'5", built like an industrial refrigerator, and had spent the last decade as a bodyguard for 2 rappers and a Saudi prince. He was, by reputation, the best close protection specialist on the East Coast, the kind of name that got whispered around agency hallways with a mix of respect and envy. "This is the tryout for Adrian Cole's personal detail. Not a soup kitchen." A few of the others laughed. Marcus said nothing. He set his duffel bag down, unzipped it partway, and pulled out a folder with his application inside. "Marcus Reed," he said simply, handing it to the woman running check-in. "I have an appointment." She scanned the sheet, raised an eyebrow, and waved him toward the waiting area without comment. Adrian Cole was the founder and CEO of Cole Dynamics, a biotech company that had made 3 separate attempts on his life in the past 2 years, once from a disgruntled former employee, once from a corporate espionage ring, and once, more quietly, from a rival firm that had hired outside muscle to intimidate him into selling patents. Cole needed protection that could think, not just protection that could pose for photographs. His head of security, a retired Army Ranger named Priya Shah, had built the tryout specifically to expose men who looked strong but folded under pressure. "Look at that," Dominic said loud enough for the room to hear, nodding at Marcus toweling off sweat. "Old man kept up. Guess Dad Bod's finally found a purpose." Laughter rolled through the group again, a few of the younger recruits nudging each other and grinning. Marcus wiped his face with a towel, folded it neatly, and set it back on the bench without a word. If the comment landed anywhere, it didn't show. During the lunch break, one of the younger recruits, a former college linebacker named Tyler, sat near Marcus out of curiosity more than kindness. "You got kids?" he asked. "A daughter," Marcus said. 8 years old. Her name's Ellie." "You do this full time?" Tyler didn't say anything else, but something in Marcus's voice, flat, steady, carrying weight he clearly wasn't going to explain, made him a little less comfortable with the jokes flying around the room. The final test was simple in concept and brutal in practice. A live sparring evaluation against Dominic, the top-rated candidate, meant to simulate a real physical confrontation with an armed attacker. Priya Shah explained the rules from the center of the mat. No strikes to the throat or eyes. Everything else was fair game, and the goal was control, not knockout. Whoever could neutralize a threat fastest, cleanest, and with the least risk to a hypothetical principal would move to the final round. Dominic went first against 2 other candidates and dispatched both in under a minute each, tossing one to the mat with a hip throw so hard the whole room flinched. He barely broke a sweat doing it, pacing afterward with the loose, satisfied energy of a man who already considered the job his. A few more pairings ran through the mat, solid, competent, unremarkable. Candidates dropped out one by one, thanked politely by Priya, and shown the door. Then Priya called the next pairing. "Reed. Vale." Dominic actually laughed out loud. "Come on! You're putting the accountant in with me?" "Get on the mat, Mr. Vale," Priya said, her tone flat enough to end the joke immediately. "Try not to break a hip," Dominic said. The whistle blew. Dominic came forward first, the way he always did, using his size to close distance and force a grapple he could win through sheer mass. It was the same opening he'd used all day: reach, control, drive the smaller man backward, finish with a throw. He never got the second step. Marcus moved before Dominic's lead hand even made contact, sidestepping the reach at an angle that turned Dominic's own forward momentum against him. One hand caught Dominic's wrist, the other found his elbow, and in a single fluid motion, no wasted movement, no wind-up, nothing that looked athletic or impressive from the outside, Dominic's 260 pounds folded forward and down. His feet left the mat entirely for a half-second. He landed on his back with a sound that emptied the air from his lungs, Marcus's knee already pinning his shoulder, his hand controlling the elbow at an angle that made any further movement genuinely dangerous. 3 seconds. Maybe 4. The gym went completely silent. Marcus released the hold immediately, stepped back, and offered his hand to help Dominic up. "Who taught you that?" Dominic said quietly. It wasn't mockery anymore. "A lot of people, over a lot of years," Marcus said, and left it there. Marcus's jaw tightened, just slightly. "Long time ago. You separated in 2019, she said. It wasn't a question. "There's a gap after that. No employment history for 2 years. The room, which had been buzzing with low murmurs, went quiet again, a different kind of quiet this time. Priya nodded slowly, the pieces settling into place. A man who had walked away from one of the most elite units in the world to sit beside a hospital bed, who had rebuilt a life from nothing while raising a daughter alone, who had walked into a room full of men half his age throwing jokes about soup kitchens and said nothing back because he had bigger things to prove than pride. "You're hired," she said. "Effective today. You'll be Mr. Cole's lead on his personal detail." Dominic, still catching his breath on the mat, looked up and said, "Lead? Over me?" "Over everyone," Priya said. "Unless you'd like a rematch." Dominic shook his head, managed something close to a real laugh, and reached up. Marcus pulled him to his feet. "No hard feelings," Dominic said. "Seriously, that was the fastest I've ever gone down in 12 years. "None taken," Marcus said. "You came in hard and honest. That's not nothing." That evening, Marcus picked Ellie up from his sister's apartment, the same as always, swinging her duffel bag of homework and stuffed animals over one shoulder while she chattered about her day. She asked him, the way she always did, how the job interview went. "I got it," he said. "Was it hard?" Marcus thought about the mat, the silence in the gym, the years of training that had once meant something entirely different than a corporate security detail, and the years since that had meant carrying a family through the worst of it alone. "No," he said, smiling for the first time all day. "Not really." 3. The intimidator sized up the 2 men blocking their path, exchanged a glance, and reconsidered their plan in about 4 seconds. Whatever they'd been paid, it wasn't enough to test the calm in Marcus Reed's eyes. They didn't get close. Cole made it to his car without a scratch, and by the time the story circulated Holloway's security group, nobody was telling soup kitchen jokes anymore. They were asking Marcus for pointers instead, and on days his sister couldn't watch Ellie, he'd bring her by the office, where she did homework at Priya's desk while the toughest men on the East Coast competed for the honor of getting her a juice box.